Hi, my name is Jara. I teach people how to garden and grow food. Today I want to talk about the most common things that I get asked about when it comes to growing citrus specifically. So I'm going to show you what's going on right now with my citrus. They need a couple treatments, and that's perfect for showing you guys what I do to help take good care of them. First off, let's talk about how to plant your citrus trees. And I do the same thing for all of the fruit trees in my garden, actually. So because I'm in Florida and we are very, very close to the water table, you have to plant your trees in a higher up mound that will cause better drainage and protect the roots from root rot. I can't tell you how many fruit trees I have lost because I just planted them at ground level and they died of root rot. So when I planted these two trees here about 2 years ago, I built up a nice big mound about 2 feet high up from the ground, and I planted the root ball and the base of the tree into that mound. And actually, citrus trees don't need much when it comes to soil. They are native to Florida and they thrive in our sandy, loamy type soils. So you don't have to go and buy lots of expensive compost or something like that to create your mound at the base. You can use just topsoil and the cheapest compost that you can find, which is what I did. So over the years, this pile has kind of shrunken down a little bit, but there is a big pile, and this is elevated from the ground level here. And then after I planted it there into that mound, I heavily mulched it with wood chips. I got a delivery of wood chips, so there is like 5 to 8 inches worth of wood chips all over this. This is full of wood chips, and that helps conserve moisture, breaks down, adds nutrients back into the soil, and the trees uptake that into their plants in the system here. Another very important thing to keep in mind is that citrus are evergreens. That means they don't go dormant for the winter. They are always growing. So they are actually pretty heavy feeders when it comes to like fertilizers and nutrients. So I fertilize my citrus every single month with 1 big cup of organic citrus granular fertilizer. I really like Espoma's brand. And so I take that 1 cup of fertilizer and I sprinkle it all around, not exactly at the base here of the plant, but more along the drip line, because the root system is not concentrated just right there. It actually extends out. So you want to make sure the fertilizer gets on, the entire root system. And the drip line, just so you know, for example, when it rains, the water will fall down. Here's the, the outer edges of my citrus tree, and it falls down. So that what that means is that the drip line actually extends all the way down here from the base of this fruit tree. So you're going to put all that fertilizer around in a circle to the width of the drip line. So I like to use Espoma brand organic granular fertilizer. This is citrus tone, made specifically for citrus. Please get a fertilizer made for citrus, because citrus requires a little bit more unique nutrients than regular fruit trees. It actually requires pretty high levels of like boron, copper, zinc, nitrogen, and iron. So a little bit higher than, let's say, like a mango or an avocado tree that do not like a lot of nitrogen. So because this is an evergreen, it's always growing. You want lush green leaves. It requires a little bit more nitrogen than other fruit trees. And then as far as pruning, I don't even prune my citrus trees that much. I definitely prune my other fruit trees because they have different kinds of requirements. But citrus, the only thing you need to keep pruned is like damaged or dead, stems and things like that. Obviously, you would want to remove that. And any stems that might be growing inward towards the center of the plant, just to keep it, opened up and allow for better airflow. So this is my page orange tree, and it definitely has some sort of nutritional deficiency right now. So I'm going to show you what to do about that. But please, before you freak out and think your citrus tree has greening, which is a serious issue, especially here in Florida, please try these treatments first to see if you could get this citrus tree to green up again before you come to that conclusion. So like I just showed you, my page orange tree has a lot of nutritional deficiencies, but the tree right next to it, which is a Honeybell Tangelo, looks great. It's very beautiful, green, glossy. She's doing fine. So this tree just needs a little bit of extra care. Here's one of the leaves again, just so you could see just that discoloration. It's getting like almost like a neon yellow kind of color on the page citrus tree. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use some Epsom salt. I'm going to put about 1 hefty tablespoon of Epsom salt per gallon of water. You're going to mix it up and you're going to do this as a soil drench. Now, the reason why we're using Epsom salts, and please get the non-scented Epsom salts, is because the magnesium helps with chlorophyll production. So that will help the leaves to get back nice and green. All right, so I put my Epsom salt in my watering can. And since the tree obviously is suffering from some kind of nutritional deficiency and the leaves need to green up, you might as well give it a nice hefty dose of some fish emulsion, because this is organic and it's like pure nitrogen. So I'm going to pour quite a bit of this. I'm not even measuring it. I'm just pouring some in there, and this is going to give it a nice boost of nitrogen very, very quickly. And I don't measure because this is organic. You cannot burn your plants with organic fertilizers. That's why I love using organic fertilizers, especially the Apopka brand citrus fertilizer versus anything that's synthetic.
All right, so then you're going to drench all around that root system. And then you're going to repeat this every 7 days until you start noticing that the leaves start greening up properly. I'm also going to add the Apopka citrus fertilizer as well. Might as well. It has been a month since I've fertilized it, so today it's due. So like I said, repeat that treatment once every 7 days, and after about a month or month and a half, if you don't notice that the leaves have started greening up, here's a healthy example of leaves, then I would try an iron treatment, because sometimes yellowing of the leaves can mean it's deficient in iron. And then after that, I would explore some of the other options.
So now let's talk about citrus pest problems. The absolute number one question that I get about growing citrus is, should I treat for leaf miners? Because I guarantee you will get leaf miners at some point. And actually right now my trees are very healthy and I don't have a leaf miner problem. Otherwise I would show you one of the leaves so that you can identify it. But basically leaf miner damage looks like white tracks on the leaves. And that is an insect that puts its eggs in between the layers of the leaves. It lays the eggs in there, they hatch, and they start growing, and they move around throughout the inside of the leaf. So it's very hard to treat for them because they're protected inside of the leaf. So the only thing that I recommend that you do, number one, leaf miners is mostly a cosmetic damage, so it has a tendency to not really be an issue, to be honest. But it can become a big problem and start affecting the shape of newer leaves. And when they're growing, they might look a little misshapen. So that's how you know, okay, I really need to start treating for this. So the only thing that I use to treat for leaf miners is horticultural oil. I don't use anything else, and I'll explain why. So first off, horticultural oil, it's an oil product, right? You're going to spray it on the leaves of your plant. And by the way, I have a link to Amazon if you want to get this same one that I use in my garden. But it basically coats all the leaves and it smothers out the leaf miners that are within, the leaves. So it smothers them out and it kind of breaks and stops their life cycle basically. So because I'm in Florida and it's so hot, if I'm going to be using any kind of oil type treatment, I do that during the winter time. So I am spraying all of my fruit trees during the winter time with the horticultural oil, like once every 2 weeks or so, or 10 days to 2 weeks. And so that way I make sure that I'm not burning the leaves of my plants, because that has happened before. So I spray all of my fruit trees because this helps not only with leaf miners, but also with a lot of other fruit tree pests, especially scale, which is the second most common pest that I see in my garden that affects all of my fruit trees as well. But anyways, this works great for the leaf miners. It smothers them out, but you need to do several treatments consistently to make sure that you stop the life cycle, the eggs hatching and laying and all of that of the leaf miners and the other insects. So I recommend every 10 days for at least, like 2 months or so. And then after that, you can treat a lot less. But what you're doing is you're smothering them out while they're pretty dormant, or they have less activity during the winter time. You're smothering them out, you're killing off the eggs, and you're going to reduce the population by the time spring rolls around and it's warmer, and now that population is very active and it starts getting out of control. So I did a really good job treating all of my citrus last winter, and therefore I don't see any leaf miner damage this time around on my citrus trees. So that is awesome. I've effectively reduced the population. Now, the other pest that I mentioned, scale.
that one by far is the hardest pest to deal with, I feel, with the fruit trees. So scale is a hard shelled insect. So they're little round insects, and they come in lots of different shapes and colors. The most common ones that I see are these really tiny circular shaped ones that have a grayish shell that looks like a barnacle, and they're actually called barnacle scale. And the other kind that I will see is like a dark black shiny oval shaped scale. So what makes treating scale so difficult is their hard shells. Whatever treatments you apply to your trees just doesn't kill them. It doesn't get through their hard shells. So again, the horticultural oil will smother them out. It basically deprives them of oxygen and they start dying, and you're disrupting their egg cycle and all of that. So this is really, really important to, use as a treatment during the wintertime for all of your fruit trees, because if one fruit tree gets scale, it will spread to your other fruit trees in your garden as well. So treat them all. I am spraying all of my fruit trees with horticultural oil. I usually start in December and I stop by the time March rolls around, just because December it's finally cool enough, and then by March it starts getting way too hot to be applying oil products in my garden. I'm in Orlando, Florida, zone 9B, so it's really hot here. But obviously if you have a longer winter than me, or a zone that it gets colder than me, you can apply this, sooner or later in the year depending on, your weather. And I feel it's really important not to use any other products on your citrus trees, because they are also a host plant for the black swallowtail butterfly. So if you ever see caterpillars on here, they actually look like bird poop, but that is the caterpillar for the black swallowtail butterflies. So I don't like to use any other treatments, nothing, no sprays, nothing on my citrus trees, especially in the springtime, because that's when I notice all of the swallowtail butterflies flying in my garden, and they definitely are laying eggs on my citrus trees. And I do find the little caterpillars. The caterpillars, obviously, this is a host plant, so they're going to be munching and chewing on the citrus leaves, but you know what? It's not enough to effectively damage the tree and cause some kind of issue. So just let them be. Don't spray for anything, because I don't want to kill, the little caterpillars, since it's a host plant. So the only time that I will spray again is the horticultural oil during the winter time, and I don't even see the butterflies at that time of the year anyways. So that is what I recommend. Please just don't treat or spray your citrus trees for anything else. And if you want to know what my favorite citrus tree cultivar is, this is it right here. This is a Minneola Tangelo. They are so juicy. I can't wait for these to be ready for harvest every year. It's November right now, and usually they're ready for harvest in October, but we had a very cold winter and it killed off the first flush of flowers. So that means the tree had to restart basically and flower again. So the fruit are a little bit late this year. They're not quite ready yet. I have to wait for them to be completely orange, but I love this variety. You open it up and it's almost like a tangerine with segments, but they're so juicy, you're just gonna get juice all over. And this is my Meyer lemon tree. This lemon right here is ready for harvest, and everything that I said about my citrus trees previously can also be applied to lemon trees. If you found any of the information in this video useful, please subscribe. That way you get notified when I release new videos. I am challenging myself to post more and more grow guides specific to different types of tree cultivars or vegetable crops. And here's one last tip that I have for you when it comes to growing citrus. There's a lot of research that indicates citrus trees that grow underneath oak trees, or the canopy of oak trees, actually, don't get greening as bad as citrus trees that grow out in open fields, like commercial fields, right? And so, if you can grow your citrus trees close nearby to oak trees, that is preferred, or I definitely recommend that. But another thing you can do is, if you're raking leaves and you have a bunch of oak leaves, or you drive around your neighborhood and your neighbors are throwing away bags of oak leaves that they've raked up from their yards, take that stuff and put it underneath your citrus trees. Use it as a mulch. Those oak leaves are so good as a mulch, and whatever compound those oak trees have, I just want to use it wherever possible. So that's a great free resource for you to use specifically on your citrus trees. And lastly, if you have any citrus care tips for me, or any kinds of products that you feel really worked well on your citrus trees, please comment below.
I learn just as much from you guys as you do from me.